on WERE Cleveland. 1300 on your radio dial. This is Fearless Morning Time, Gary D. Fighting for my right is guaranteed by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights under the Declaration of Independence for freedom of speech. And fighting for your right to freedom of speech. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the manager of WERE, the most powerful broadcasting force in the history of broadcasting in Cleveland, Mr. Paul F. Neuhoff.
Ladies and gentlemen, an important message from Paul F. Neuhoff, Vice President and General Manager of WERE.
For the past 2 years, our company, ASI Communications, has operated WERE something like a magazine. As many of you know, we presented features such as long news programs, helicopter traffic reports, business and executive reports, play-by-play sports. We surrounded these features with a variety of programs ranging from music to swap and shop. As we analyzed the position of our station, we saw that our news and sports features were widely listened to by a large general audience. And they still are. But a closer look showed something else. WERE's overall popularity was slowly going down, especially among the middle and young adult groups aged 18 to 49. It was clear, therefore, that WERE had to improve the programs that were wrapped around its news and sports. And there were a number of alternatives open in the music area. It was felt, however, that music programming would not complement WERE's heavy commitment to news and sports. We also felt that in an area served by over 20 music-oriented radio stations, the public would best be served by WERE's concentration on the relevant issues of the day. Thus, on February 14th, WERE removed its sporadic music, swap and shop programs, and became People Power Radio. People Power Radio was designed to complement the news and sports features of the day by bringing together black power, white power, women power, east and west side power to form People Power. The power of ideas from all sides, combining in an open, robust debate. Those of us who are here on the radio station will not soon forget the public response. It was immediate and frankly overwhelming. Never before had so many people brought their thoughts and voices together to grapple with the vexing complexities of life in a large city. In a single average day, WERE plunged into finance, law and order, politics, welfare, drugs, government. All sides were discussed, and we ensured diversity of opinion by designing a program schedule featuring radio personalities whose background and points of view were quite different. Gary D., the son of a sharecropper from Arkansas, hardworking farmer, teacher, radio performer, anti-welfare, pro-free enterprise, a flag waver. The small man can rise by working within the system. Farley Wheelwright, well-known Cleveland Unitarian minister. The system must be changed before we can survive and progress. An educated liberal, active in nonviolent protest. Howie Lund, longtime well-known Cleveland radio personality, closely associated with the middle-class working men of Cleveland, very active in community affairs. Then there was Ron Owens, young, educated liberal, keenly attuned to the young, educated adult, inquisitive, outspoken, and a student of the language of our newer citizens. Pete Franklin, one of radio's most colorful people. His is an instinct for the joy of living. His brisk step and computer-like mind are a part of Cleveland's rhythm and pace. Herb Kelsey, a key man in the black community, works in it, he lives in it, he teaches in it, as he adds the reality and strength and beauty of black power to an idea he believes in, people power. Now, when these issues were discussed in the open for the first time in Cleveland, with all sides participating, no matter how radical or conservative, the response was both overwhelming and vociferous. The first to react negatively was a small group of longtime friends of WERE who were upset by the loss of music and swap and shop. These people threatened sponsors by calling, claiming to represent large groups who would boycott the sponsors unless they exited the station. Some sponsors did leave, although many of them are in the process of returning. The second group to react were those who claimed to represent the establishment. The station, who at first was just an interesting novelty, now was beginning to be felt. All of a sudden, people began to see people power become a factor in the life of the Cleveland community. Obviously, to some, this was an unwanted factor. These feelings of disapproval have been voiced by many through various vehicles, including the local press, and we might add, WERE itself. But that's the essence of people power, communicating and acting in free speech. Free speech became the issue. And believe us, ladies and gentlemen, free speech has been criticized. As an example, a recent Cleveland newspaper article insinuated that because WERE had allowed discussion of such topics as welfare, the problems of blacks, the drug problem, the possession of weapons, abortion, and we could go on, WERE and its personalities are for killing welfare recipients and the people in the ghettos. It further insinuates that the station advocates pot smoking, abortion, illegal possession of weapons, and euthanasia. Isn't this article an example of guilt by association, guilt by mere discussion? This article alludes to the necessity for the control of free speech, yet the necessity for this kind of freedom of expression has been stated over and over again and as an integral part of the formation of our republic. Justice Brennan of the U.S. Supreme Court saw free speech as that robust exchange of ideas which discovers truth out of a multitude of tongues rather than through any kind of authoritative selection. We take further note of what Justice Holmes said almost 50 years ago, and I quote, "If there is any principle of the Constitution that more imperatively calls for attachment than any other, it is the principle of free thought. Not free thought for those who agree with us, but freedom for the thought that we hate." I'd like to repeat that. Freedom for the thought we hate. Yet we must allow it. For as Somerset Maugham once said, if a nation values anything more than freedom, it will lose its freedom. That's why people power, freedom of speech, is so important. That's why William O. Douglas of our Supreme Court stated, "A function of free speech is to invite dispute. It may indeed best serve its high purpose when it induces unrest or even stirs people to anger." We believe that. That's why we have not to this date backed down to pressure. But the fact is that ASI Communications is a business made up of stockholders who are working people who have invested their money for their future. And it's our job here at WERE to protect that investment. The question now is, do we remember Abraham Lincoln, Justice Brennan, Justice Holmes, Somerset Maugham? Or do we take seriously the humor of Mark Twain, who may have been more prophetic when he said, "In our country we have three precious things: freedom of speech, freedom of conscience, and the prudence never to practice either of them." Ladies and gentlemen, that's the dilemma of WERE. Do we really believe that we should give Farley Wheelwright the freedom for thought that we might hate? Do we really believe that we assist our leaders by exposing them to a robust exchange of ideas and mannerisms? Is the function of free speech to invite dispute? Does it best serve its high purpose when Gary D. induces unrest or even anger? We at WERE believe it does. And that's why we pioneered people power. But people power is your power. We've made our stand. We've paid our price. Now comes the time for decision. The other radio stations in our small company, known as ASI Communications, are mostly music stations. They play music from rock and roll to classical. We even have a religious station in Boston. So if you want something else, we can give it to you. What I'm saying to you today is that people power is now up to you. You can decide. You tell us whether our sacrifice and work so far is worth it. You, the people, must give people power a mandate if we are to keep it alive. Tomorrow afternoon in the Cleveland Press, and again on Friday, also in the Cleveland Press, WERE will publish a ballot seeking your answer. You are being asked to approve or disapprove. It's up to you. The ballots will be tabulated by a certified public accounting firm. We know of no better way to demonstrate that people power belongs to the people than by placing its life or death in your hands. Your decision will be announced on WERE as soon as the public accountants finish their tabulation. If it's your decision that we must change, so be it. But if it is your decision to keep people power alive, we pledge to continue building what we believe is America's most exciting radio station, dedicated to the principle that free enterprise is alive and vibrant and can support the basic principles of robust free speech. Thank you.